So if you're tossing and turning too much at night, again, that's indicative of not having restful sleep. But patients gradually get accustomed to it. Also, we don't encourage sleeping on the back because, well, some patients do need to sleep on their back, but for overall sleep health, it's better if you sleep on your side because there's another sleep condition called sleep apnea, which can actually worsen when you're sleeping on your back.
Hello and welcome to Honestly Speaking with 360 Plus, your companion in holistic healing. I'm your host Anjana, and through this series, we explore every aspect of osteoarthritis so you can take charge of your health. At 360 Plus, we bring together the wisdom of Ayurveda and the best of modern science to put together expert-backed strategies for long-term joint care. Joining us today is Dr. Srishti Shroff, a sleep specialist who practices both in Mumbai and in Bangalore. Thank you for taking the time to be here. So, Dr. Shroff, it's such a tricky subject because with sleep, when you have pain, it's so hard to sleep, right? And with osteoarthritis, obviously, you're experiencing deep pain, especially in the later stages, and sleep becomes really hard. But then at the same time, if you're not sleeping, then that's going to aggravate your pain as well, right? So, what are some of the strategies, and what would you advise somebody who has osteoarthritis? And also, how does this work? How does a lack of sleep lead to inflammation?
So to begin with, pain and sleep are both, they have a bidirectional relationship. If you don't sleep well, you'll have more pain. And if you have pain, you won't sleep well. So when you have chronic pain, especially in cases of osteoarthritis, there's a lot of sleep fragmentation. Sleep fragmentation is when your sleep repeatedly breaks up during the night. And because of the sleep fragmentation, what happens is we have an accumulation of inflammatory mediators in our body. So there are these substances that our body produces that are pro-inflammatory, and they're basically like hormones. And the more they accumulate in the body, the more pain they'll cause. And also these same hormones or these inflammatory mediators disrupt our sleep pattern. So the longer you have chronic inflammation, the more pain you have, the more your sleep will be disrupted. And when you don't sleep well, that in turn also increases the quantity of these inflammatory mediators in the body, and it causes more pain. So you're caught in this vicious loop of having a lot of pain, which disrupts sleep. And because you have disrupted sleep, now you're having more pain because our pain sensitivity overall increases when we aren't sleeping well. So what we have to do is we have to attack it from both ends. We have to try and improve a patient's sleep while also trying to decrease their pain levels. So what you can do, for example, is, you can take a warm bath, you can do some guided meditation before you go to sleep. So these sort of help mitigate the effects of the pain. They help loosen up the joints a bit, and they help you sleep a little bit better. And once you sleep a little bit better, you'll feel a little better in the day, you'll have a little bit less pain, and so on and so forth. The longer you indulge in these practices, have a structured bedtime routine, the better you'll slowly start feeling.
So I just want to take a few steps back. You use this term inflammatory mediators.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're a specialist, so obviously you
Yeah.
would, but for the rest of us, can you break it down a little bit? What is that?
So basically arthritis is an inflammatory condition. Basically, to put it down in very simple terms, it's like having swelling in your joints. So it's not like the type of swelling you would see on your skin, but it's very similar to that. The bones have a bit of a swelling, and that causes pain and causes discomfort. Sometimes the joint may even be warm, and that's all part of inflammation. So whenever there is inflammation in any part of the body, the mediators that are released by the body help support it. They're like hormones, sort of, they're hormone-like substances, and they accumulate in that area. And the longer you have inflammation, the more chronic it becomes. Those mediators sort of spread through the body. They don't just stay localized to that one joint. And when they start spreading and they're sort of, now they have an overall effect on our health. They can disrupt our sleep-wake cycle. They can, cause more forgetfulness. They can cause decreased cognition. They can cause hormonal changes. For example, cortisol.
Okay.
We all have heard of cortisol. It's a
Stress
primary
hormone.
stress hormone, exactly. It can cause dysregulation of cortisol levels. Usually, cortisol is excreted more in the mornings, and as the day progresses, cortisol levels fall, and then we're able to go to sleep because it's more of a fight and flight hormone. But when you have chronic inflammation, you have cortisol dysregulation, so you may have elevated cortisol levels through the day. So it makes falling asleep more difficult. And you can't get restful sleep even if you fall asleep. So yeah, it's a vicious loop, and it's patients really suffer. A lot of times they don't understand what's going on. Sometimes patients or even some doctors may sort of dismiss concerns, and you may not have enough support from your family as well, because they may just feel, oh, it's a little bit of knee pain, why are you not sleeping well? But it's a larger health problem that's not just localized.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting because when you say that your doctor may dismiss it, why would your doctor dismiss it?
Well, that's just simply because sleep is not that well understood in India yet, or even like it's gaining more attention throughout the world. So sometimes, your doctor may not realize how much of an impact chronic pain may have on sleep. And if you're just given, sleeping pills or pain relieving pills, that's not going to address the long term, consequences of not sleeping well or having this pain, because it may help in the short term. Like, you may take some sleeping tablets, and, for the short term, you may feel a little bit better, but it has a detrimental effect on your health going forward because you can't take it long term. You have to, employ other strategies to manage patients who aren't sleeping well. So, you may just come back with a prescription for, some sort of, a Restil or something like that, whatever. But it may not be really good for you in the long term.
Yeah, there's so many other things that people take for sleep now, right? There's melatonin.
Yeah.
Would something like that help if I had OA?
Yeah, so melatonin plays a role in osteoarthritis as well. There are recent studies that are showing that patients who do have osteoarthritis have reduced melatonin in the body. And giving melatonin supplements can actually sometimes, for some patients, enhance the pain relieving effect as well. And the pain may become a little bit better, and they may sleep well as well. So what happens is melatonin is very important for our circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
It balances our sleep-wake cycle. It's released more in the evening before we go to sleep. And patients have osteoarthritis, we may see a dip in their melatonin levels, so which causes them to have a little bit more pain as well as have a bad sleep. But when you take melatonin supplements, it sort of regularizes your sleep-wake cycle and also sort of mitigates the pain.
That is so interesting because, the common sense thing is obviously that you've got pains, you're not able to sleep. But the fact that OA itself, the condition itself, is affecting your melatonin levels and therefore making it hard for you to sleep. So, that's very interesting. I didn't realize there was that association at all. Thank you for that, Dr. Shroff. So, are there then any positions? We will get into other strategies as well. But are there then any positions, that would help you to sleep, any pillows or, any sort of pillow placements that would help with improved sleep, especially in the case of OA patients?
Yes, of course. So basically, when someone has OA, what we want to do is you want to take the pressure off the affected joint. So for example, if someone's having pain in their knees, for example, we would ask them to place a pillow between their knees if they're sleeping on their side. They place a pillow between the knees, and that takes the pressure off the knees as well as the hip. If someone's having, OA in their shoulder, what they do is they sleep on the opposite shoulder, and then they place a pillow under the affected hand. So if you're sleeping, for example, your right shoulder is okay and your left shoulder is affected, you sleep on the right side. And for the left hand, which will be left unsupported, you place a pillow under the left hand that sort of supports the arm and prevents, from any pressure building up.
Right.
And if you have, say, neck arthritis, you have cervical osteoarthritis, you sleep with a good cervical support. So you get these wedge-shaped pillows now. So you put the thick part of the wedge under your neck. So
are you talking about memory foam?
Yeah, well, memory foam mattresses also do help. You have to make sure your mattress isn't too soft. It should give adequate lumbar support as well as cervical support. But you get specialized neck pillows also, which are sort of wedge-shaped. So it sort of goes under your neck and supports the neck.
I'm smiling because I was just thinking, the thing is that all of us are so accustomed to sleeping with certain pillows and even certain positions. And when you say, sleep on this side, and of course, when you've got pain, I think the common sense thing would be to sleep on the side where it's not hurting, right? But and it also won't be possible to sleep on the other side. However, sleep with the pillow wedged between your knees. You may until you fall into deep sleep, and then you're going to sort of toss and turn and
So if you're tossing and turning too much at night, again, that's indicative of not having restful sleep. But patients gradually get accustomed to it. Also, we don't encourage sleeping on the back because some patients do need to sleep on their back, but for overall sleep health, it's better if you sleep on your side, because there's another sleep condition called sleep apnea, which can actually worsen when you're sleeping on your back. So you'll have a lot of patients, and if you talk to people, they'll just report that when they sleep on their back, they tend to snore more.
Yeah, so it's the breathing.
Yeah, it's the breathing. So
Yeah, that's
sleeping on your side sort of helps with the breathing as well.
Right.
It takes a little bit getting used to, but of course, when patients have pain, if they tend to shift too much, the pain will wake them up, and then they'll realize and they'll correct themselves and go into the correct position again.
Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, so there is a way to sort of
Mitigate.
Yeah, and you're actually saying with practice you'll get better.
Yeah,
at it.
for sure, you get better. Yeah, you get used to sleeping in a certain way.
So, similarly, are there any exercises or routines that you would recommend, or even foods to eat or avoid? I know in India we always talk about haldi. People drink haldi doodh before
Yeah.
they go to sleep. That's supposed to offer some sort of relief from inflammation, right? So, does any of this help, or would you recommend for somebody again who has osteoarthritis?
Yeah, for sure. So many of these, gharilu nuske as they call it, actually
Yeah.
do help. So haldi and turmeric, especially curcumin. Now you get curcumin tablets. They do help with inflammation, and they do help reduce inflammatory levels in the body. So you can, use this as a, daily bedtime routine. You can have some warm tea before you go to bed. So with arthritis, what happens is the more you're cold, the colder you are, the more your joints ache, the more they are stiff. So we recommend patients take, a warm bath before they go to sleep. They can do light stretching, just like some yoga poses, to sort of, make their muscles warm and just increase blood flow to their joints and sort of keep them mobile. They can just do some guided meditation or progressive relaxation, mindfulness techniques. There are a lot of them on YouTube. So this again helps calm their mind down. Also, like a lot of studies have shown, the more you practice in deep breathing or pranayam, also the more your stress levels tend to settle down and you sleep better. It promotes sleep. Chronic pain and inflammation causes more anxiety too. So just establishing a very relaxing bedtime routine, like you reduce the screen time. You don't have caffeine after say 2 p.m. because that makes you more, anxious. It promotes, more sleep fragmentation.
I've actually done this. I actually stopped caffeine
Yeah.
at 2 o'clock because otherwise it really was affecting
Yeah,
my sleep.
exactly. Yeah.
So I do understand that, but so there are. What would you say when you say have this bedtime hygiene?
Yeah,
rather
sleep
that you're talking
hygiene,
about? What would that involve? So say, okay, 2 o'clock you stop your caffeine. Then what? Have your dinner at 5?
Well, 5 or at least by 7:30. Like you don't want to be hungry when you go to bed either. So if you can do a 5 o'clock meal, that's great. But at least by 7:30, 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed. Have a very established bedtime routine. So keep a consistent schedule. Like you go to sleep, for example, at 10 p.m. every day and wake up at 6 or 7. Maintain that schedule. Don't sleep at 10 p.m. one day and 1 a.m. the next. That's not going to help. Sleep in a room that's optimized for sleep. So your room should be dark. It should be quiet. It should be cool. It shouldn't be cold, but it should have a comfortable temperature of say 24 to 25 degrees. And again, avoid blue lights, avoid screen time before you go to sleep. Don't have a very heavy meal before you go to bed. Have a little bit of lighter meal, nothing too spicy, nothing that can cause hyperacidity and again cause more sleep disruptions. And just establish, as we discussed, a nice warm bath, maybe some herbal tea, some warm milk with turmeric. That also works well. So just a very structured bedtime that promotes sleep.
Okay. For me, I think what works really well is just reading in bed.
Yeah.
It really sort of helps me unwind,
Yeah.
and I think I sleep so soundly.
Yeah.
So I think, I would highly recommend that as a
Yeah.
practice. So, when we talk about sleep, when we talk about older adults, right, the aging population rather, or people over say 60, you've got, there may be so many other comorbidities, right? So sometimes the sleep, of course, you've got your OA, and even if you've got your OA under control, say you've got it at a stage 2 and you're doing your physiotherapy and that pain is under control. But there are so many other factors. You could have diabetes and so many other conditions. And again, I don't even know why I'm restricting it to the older population. It could be anyone with comorbidities. So there could be all these other factors that affect your sleep as well. What would be your advice in that case? What can you do?
Well, it depends on what condition you're having that's sort of affecting your sleep as well. So, for example, you mentioned diabetes. Patients who do have long-term diabetes or diabetes that's not well controlled can develop another condition called peripheral neuropathy. So that's they have a tingling or a pins and needle sensation in their feet, and that can cause pain, and that again disrupts their sleep. There's another condition called restless leg syndrome, which we see it's comorbid with OA itself. So patients that do have OA, we see a higher prevalence of restless leg syndrome in them. So restless leg syndrome is basically you get this irresistible urge to shake your legs. It's like an uncomfortable feeling in your calves, and irresistible urge just to move your legs because it's and it's very painful and it disrupts sleep a lot. Then you can have patients that have sleep apnea where you stop breathing at night. You have repeated pauses in your breath, which these leads to blood oxygen levels falling, and that causes an arousal and really disrupts sleep. Patient may be very tired and fatigued during the day. And again, melatonin, for example, we see drop in melatonin levels as patients age. So you have to really find out what else is causing, a sleep disruption in the patient and sort of then target therapy
Address
towards
those
that.
address those
Yeah.
issues as well. And then what would that sort of involve? So the natural ways are, like you said, switch off your screens. Also, when I say what would that involve, it's because it's so much easier said than done, right? Firstly, with our routines, people living with family members, you can't just say, okay, now I'm going to go to bed. Then Bombay, Bangalore as well. These are very noisy cities, So when we say sleeping, when you said temperatures at 24 and 25 degrees, that it is not during Bombay summer, definitely not in other parts of India, also during the summer months. But there are, there are a lot of months when you can have a comfortable 24, 25, just keep your window open and sleep with the fan. But then there's a lot of noise as well. There's pollution as well. There's so many other factors that again disrupt your sleep. So how do you safeguard against that? Is it even possible?
But you can't really safeguard against everything because we do live where we live. It's going to be
Correct.
noisy. It is going to be polluted.
You
But
can't
we have
move.
to sort of you have to just sort of improvise. For example, so if someone's really like for example, if you're living in Delhi, there's a lot of pollution now. Even in Bombay, you can have a air purifier inside your room that will sort of help humidify and a humidifier also humidify the air and sort of extract all the pollutants from the air and just sort of purify your air. That's one. For the noise, you can either use earplugs or you can use a white noise machine. So a lot of people, especially people in India, I feel are so accustomed to sleeping with the fan on, and that's like white noise because they like the noise. It sort of drowns out the noise of the traffic outside. So you do something like that. So you have to just mitigate the external triggers that are sort of interrupting your sleep.
Okay. Well, it's good to know that there's some things that you can do. And one thing you would recommend to somebody with osteoarthritis who's struggling to sleep. Say if I was to come to you today and tell me, what can I do today? As you said, with the pillows and the positioning, all of that takes a little time to get in, right? What can I start with today that will help me maybe even enjoy a restful night of sleep just today?
So if you came to me for some relief today itself, I would say, before you go to bed, take a warm bath, have some warm tea or warm milk because you want to be warm inside. What happens with osteoarthritis is if you're cold, if your joints are cold, you're more likely to have pain. But also you need to sleep in a cool room. You can't sleep in a very warm room because, then you won't have restful sleep.
If you're uncomfortable.
So yeah, so you need to have like a cool environment outside, but you need to warm up your body. So do something like that. You can indulge in light stretches. Use some guided meditation and just sort of calm your mind down, just remove all the distractions from your room and go to bed.
We have a quick myth-busting round. It's not rapid fire, so please feel free to elaborate on the answers. First one for you is, so you can sleep through the night if you're tired enough.
Yes, I think कुछ हद तक ये सही है कि जितने भी आप थके हुए हैं आपको नींद आ जाएगी लेकिन ये कुछ टाइम के लिए ही होगा. If you're tired for too long and if this continues, you will not get restful sleep. What happens is there's something called sleep architecture, which is how you have slept in the night. So if you're very tired, you will fall asleep quickly and, you will feel like you need to sleep. But if that continues, अगर ऐसे ही होता रहेगा तो हम देखेंगे कि हर रात के बाद there are more disturbances in the sleep. And then after some time, maybe after a week or so, your sleep will not be that restful. So for short term, yes. And long term, it's not the best. You need to find why you're so tired and sort of again work on that and sort of not be overly tired when you go to sleep.
If somebody has pain with regard to osteoarthritis, if somebody has pain, will they still be able to sleep through the night if they're tired?
No, most likely if the pain is bad enough, it will cause a sleep disruption.
It will cause
a sleep disruption.
Right. Okay. And so again, is this true or false? Pain meds, sleeping medication, is that more helpful than sleep techniques?
Again, in the short term, the pain meds and the sleep meds are helpful, but the sleep techniques are a habit or an exercise that you need to like build for like long-term benefits. So what we can do if someone comes, and they're in terrible pain and they aren't able to sleep at all, we can start them on these medications, get the pain under control, and then teach them the techniques simultaneously. So by the time they, incorporated the techniques and the exercise into the routine, the pain has settled down. Because, if someone comes with a lot of pain and they haven't slept for 5 nights, I tell them to just go home and do these little exercises, they won't do it. And they won't have the relief, they'll be frustrated, they're not going to like it. So you need to give them some relief now so that, they know they can get better and they will get better. And once they've sort of settled down mentally, they can start, working on the long-term techniques.
So break the pattern
Break the
essentially.
pattern,
So
for
then
sure,
you
yeah.
can address
Yeah.
it, right? And okay, this is a big one. So someone you've mentioned the importance of sleeping at the right temperature.
Yeah.
Someone with osteoarthritis should never sleep with the air conditioner on. True or false?
False. I think you can have it on, but as I said, don't set it to maybe like the 18 degree, set it to 24, 25 degrees, and make sure you have a warm blanket and just take a bath or drink some tea and be warm when you go to sleep. Because again, you don't want to be uncomfortable. You don't want to sleep well if you're in a warm room.
That's why it's just interesting. I had a conversation with certain friends of mine many years ago, and they're a couple. So one person likes a temperature at a certain level, and the other person likes it at the extreme opposite.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, so now we actually are seeing a term, so it's called sleep divorce, where we see couples actually sleeping in separate rooms because they can't sleep together, and especially one person is snoring and the other is not, it's disrupting their sleep. It's very common for seeing couples sleep in separate rooms because it's causing, it's just so frustrating. Night after night you aren't sleeping well. That's what people have started doing.
It seems like an extremely practical approach to
Yeah.
me. Especially after many years of marriage, I don't know what to do.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you so much
Dr.
for having
Srishti.
me. Thank you.
And so the way you sleep and care for your body significantly contributes to how you move through life. I mean, that's a no-brainer, obviously. For more expert insights on holistic healing, follow Honestly Speaking with 360 Plus. We're here to help you take control of your joint health with informed choices. Share this episode with someone who would benefit from it and take this first step towards living a pain-free life. Thank you.